Hello, welcome to Animal Audit Corner. As you know, Peeling the Onion would be the show of Mark Fisher and Janice Gilling Grady. Now, Janice Gilling Grady would tell her story candidly, and so would Mark Fisher. Peeling the Onion, Mark Fisher and Janice Grady, who were Scientologists. Janice was in Scientology when she was 13 or 11. She was still a child. When she was a commoner's messenger, but L. Ron Hubbard himself. And this is during her preteen years. Or she might have been there younger. That's how I got the story today. She was in the Sea Org for 22 years, in Scientology for 34 years. When she finally, and Mark was a young man when he was in Scientology, both out of Scientology, and they are more happier. Both of them are so happy that they are out, and they should be. It's now, Janice was in during her preteen years, or maybe even sooner. And then Mark Fisher might have been in there maybe when she came out of Scientology. She was pregnant at the time when her and her husband of 11 years, her sister left 7 months before she did, and she started living in Florida when she left, before Janice left. At the time, there was no internet or cell phones at the time. She was trying to contact her sister. Some were out in Florida, somewhere out in Florida, when she was trying to contact her via payphone. But you know what would happen? She was trying, okay, but today, where smartphones completely took over, and now payphones were located in government facilities, prisons, rural areas, and low-income areas. Now, smartphones and the internet would just take over in today's society in 2025. But cell phones would take part in the early 21st century, and then into 10 years later, then in the 21st century came around, the cell phone would be introduced to the public. Payphones was around during the time when it was at their peak, where it would be. She was in Los Angeles, where she had got off the plane in LAX airport, where she had an escort. A courier would come and pick them up both, and went direct. When she got there, a little girl named Jasmine was telling her what to do. She is the officer. Then she had asked where Paul was. Imagine a child telling an adult what to do. And of course, Scientology does not see children as children. They would see them as adults in a little person's body. Even when they wouldn't even see them as teenagers. They would see them as full-grown adults. She told Janice not to even worry about Paul. She would ask her where Paul was. She didn't want to even tell her where her husband was. And this was a child. Everyone was in a dining area listening to a tape recorder. She was asking everyone. They are all wondering why they are not telling her where Paul was at the time. Paul was looking up at. Then they let him go home to their apartment. She had seen Paul locked up overnight at Kirby in some place called the Gilman. Yeah. Scientology has a habit of locking people in rooms. And of course, this would be through the years before it really came out during the Danny Masterson trial. They were like that for years. They had slave labor. They had abusive practices. They locked people in rooms. That's what it's really like in Scientology. And then all of a sudden, the truth came out. Nobody was aware of it. And we all know the internet is Scientology's. She finds out she was replaced as chief officer and the watchdog committee which she was in. And she said she didn't do anything wrong. They should have believed her. Of course, this was probably little baby Miscavige's. Paul's mission would be graduated to the rehabilitation program force. They would decide that he was not going to go back. The RPF were Jim and Ann Broker got married at the time. Then her husband was sent back to the RPF. Then later, Janice would be declared and she didn't even care less. She would be in Scientology for years when her and Paul would leave the organization. That's when she was pregnant at the time, and this was with her. Then she found out that Scientology had stole from her when they broke into her storage space. But there was not much they can do about all her memories that were gone. She had cards from L. Ron Hubbard. and a lot of the personal stuff that she had that she loved was gone. So she had no choice but to leave without half her stuff. But she'd be okay anyway. Then once they were out, they started to spend the holidays with their families. Then by the time January rolled around, they were completely out of Scientology. Imagine celebrating Christmas with your family, especially when you're in the process of coming out of Scientology and then being completely out. Then Mark Fisher and Janice Gillen Grady, who were once nevertheless, both of them are so happy that they are out, and they should be. It's not a great, but at the time, they were both young. Then ultimately, Janice had seen Paul locked up overnight at Kirby in some place called the Old Gilman. She found out she would wind up being replaced as chief officer in one of the watchdog committees that she once was in that committee. Then later they would declare Janice as an SP. Then in conclusion, she would have her baby, who is now in his 30s. And a child changes everything. Even though I never had one, she would be lucky to have one. A child is the most precious gift anyone can have. And she was such a smart lady that she came out. And today, guess what? I went over the SPTV. And guess what? There are some people in there, the survivors. Some of them weren't in there. And they should have been. And then first, I thought Club Brain Fog should have been in there, but she said that she wanted to be taken out. Now, I wonder why she requested it. I was thinking maybe there were some incidents that happened, who knows? But at the same, I thought that whole space was a whole dog and now not all the survivors are on there. Mark Fisher wasn't on there. Janice Gillen Grady was not on there. Aaron Smith wasn't on there. So unusual that those people are not even on there. But United Against Dogs, or Dog United Against Scientology, was on there. And they were having a whole horse and pony show with those dogs. Even though they were dogs, they were dying when they were used as collateral when they killed them, belonging to former Scientologists. Now, well, I told her, you know what? There are people on there that should have been on there. I addressed it to her. And I also addressed the fact that Club Brain Fog was actually there, took the effort to go down there, but she requested to be removed. And I was wondering why. I did look at that space, at that SPTV space. And some of the people that are survivors were, guess what? Aaron's a survivor, but I don't think, I didn't see him anywhere on that list. And there were people, some of them requested to be on there, but guess what? They didn't do anything. And some of them only did one video, but then didn't do another. And there was Dogs United Against Scientology. They only talked about Scientology about twice, and then the rest was just a dog and pony show. There was just this one other guy who didn't mention a word about Scientology whatsoever. And then there was a cat, but no word about Scientology. This is just, it's not really great. Now, is she a survivor? I do not know. But if she is, my heart goes out to her. But having some of these people not in there, which they should be, is sad. But I'm not saying this out of hate at all. You don't believe me? Take a look. Find it. Some of these people are nowhere to be seen. Now, yes, Jenna Miscavige is definitely on it, yes. But and it's just real sad. I don't hate, but for Squirrel, I'm just surprised at her. I have no hate for her whatsoever. I have no hate for anyone, really. But no, it's okay. Now I know some people who do talk about Scientology, all of you who are working on sites right now who are not on there, okay. Looks like we're not going to be on there at all. But you know what? It's okay. I'll just continue to do this. And hope for the best. And do I want to follow it? If I have it, that's fine. If I don't, that should be fine too. You know what? I say people who are not on there, who are victims, keep on putting the awareness out there. Give your stories. Like Aaron Smith Levin, Janice Grady, Janice, Mark Fisher. And those of you who want to keep on advocating in Scientology, keep on doing it. But you know what? I'm also volunteering for the SPTV Foundation. So, and I'm working on a project right now for them, and I'm hoping that they get my message. I called them and they asked me if I was from an organization, and I told them no, but then I volunteered. And I really want to work on this project now. So I'll keep on top of it. Right now, I am writing a letter to them. And I'm building my hopes in this project that I want to do. And once I make the request, I'm hoping everybody in the SPTV community and the survivors that survived years later and on their feet will help continue to help them get back on their feet with my great idea. Hopefully, this one organization would help me with a project that I have in mind. And what else is there? And I do want to keep on volunteering and telling stories about characters, because characters are something that I love the most. I loved characters my entire life. But real life characters I really like the most. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this one project that I want to do. So, you like my channel? Buy me a coffee. And then hit the like, press subscribe, and click onto my next page above the right hand corner of the screen. Even though this is live TV right now, but catching on a reel in its entirety. So hit that like, press